there are classic machines that refuse to fade. Survivors of America's most powerful eras. They filled our highways, shaped our memories, and somehow still remain within reach. Today, we revisit 10 icons that never disappeared. Reminders that true American legends are not rare because they are forgotten, but because they are unforgettable. Stepping into an era when America was changing by the day, the Ford Mustang arrived as a declaration of freedom on four wheels. At the time, Detroit was searching for a young, accessible, energetic car that could ignite an entire generation of new drivers. The Mustang entered exactly that moment, launching with a starting price just above $2,300 and instantly becoming a national phenomenon. It turned into an icon the very moment it debuted at the New York World's Fair, where crowds surrounded it as if witnessing a glimpse of the future. What set the Mustang apart was its uncanny balance between sportiness and elegance. A long hood, a short deck, a smooth roofline, and crisp body lines stretched across the sides created a look filled with energy and momentum. Versions powered by the V8, 328, or 324 cubic inch engines were not only strong but remarkably easy to tune, which made them favorites among street racers of that era. On late-night runs and unofficial races, the Mustang's roar became a familiar and unforgettable sound. Most V8 Mustangs of the time covered the quarter mile in roughly 14 to 15 seconds, and depending on configuration, could reach top speeds between 110 and 120 miles per hour. Special variants like the Boss 429 and Boss 320 were far more capable, yet their low production numbers turned them into legends that most drivers could only dream of. The reason first-generation Mustangs are still easy to find today is simple. Ford produced more than 5 million of them. Their massive presence helped many V8 models survive the decades, keeping the car accessible for collectors and enthusiasts. The most expensive sale on record belongs to a rare Boss 429 that crossed the auction block in Scottsdale for more than $500,000, proving that the Mustang is not just a car but a living piece of American memory. If you love classic muscle, crave a lively driving experience, and want a machine that is easy to maintain, easy to tune, and surprisingly easy to find, the first-generation Mustang is almost impossible to beat. And if you want to ride along for more stories from the world of American performance, you can subscribe to American Muscle Soul and join us for the next journey. The second-generation Chevrolet Camaro was born during one of the most sensitive chapters in American automotive history. As the early 1970s arrived, tighter emissions rules and unstable fuel prices placed heavy pressure on traditional muscle cars. In the middle of that tension and transition, the second-generation Camaro emerged as a declaration that performance, emotion, and driving feel did not have to be sacrificed. Across more than a decade of production, Chevrolet built over 2,900,000 units. That enormous volume is the reason second-generation Camaros remain common in the classic car market today, especially the standard versions. High-performance models, such as the Z28, were produced in much smaller numbers, which only increased their desirability among collectors. The second-generation Camaro carried a long and low design with a clear European influence. A sleek front profile, a wide curved rear glass, and stretched body proportions gave it a look that blended elegance with aggression. It remains one of the most admired Camaro generations in terms of styling. Depending on the engine configuration, many V8 models reached top speeds between 120 and 130 miles per hour, easily delivering the excitement that defined the era. When new, prices ranged from roughly $2,800 to just above $3,000, making the Camaro an attainable performance car for many American families. An interesting story often shared among enthusiasts involves actor Burt Reynolds. Although he is famously associated with the Trans Am on screen, he frequently drove a second-generation Camaro at events. He appreciated its stability through corners and the confidence it provided at higher speeds, which quietly boosted the Camaro's visibility within Hollywood circles. If you have made it this far and have ever seen a second-generation Camaro in person, share your experience below. Your story may bring a piece of the American muscle era alive for someone else watching. When people think back to the years when wide American highways still echoed with the sound of big engines, the Ford Galaxie is often the name that brings a quiet smile. It was never a car that chased attention. It embodied the calm confidence of America as it entered the 1960s. From its earliest days, Ford positioned the Galaxie as a full-size machine, refined enough for family use, yet powerful enough to compete in the high-speed racing scene that was gaining momentum across the country. The design of the Galaxie during this era carried an unmistakable sense of presence. The long and commanding body, the straight and deliberate character lines, and the substantial front fascia all created a feeling of strength from the very first glance. Each sub-generation had its own touches, but the signature look remained a form that felt carved from a solid block of steel, paired with round or sculpted tail lamps depending on the year. Beyond its size, the Galaxie carried the spirit of a ground-pounding cruiser, a defining trait of many American cars from the 1960s. In terms of performance, the big-engine versions of the Galaxie could complete the quarter mile in roughly 13 to 14 seconds, an impressive figure for such a large and heavy car. Depending on configuration, top speed hovered between 110 and 120 miles per hour, giving a clear reminder of the power hidden beneath that massive hood. Thanks to the high production numbers throughout these years, Galaxies from 1962 to 1968 remain a common sight in the classic car market. Whether a standard model or a coveted 500 version, each surviving Galaxie brings back images of long American boulevards where strength and elegance once ruled the road. During the mid-1960s, Dodge Coronet stepped into an increasingly competitive mid-size market. American drivers wanted a car practical enough for daily life, yet powerful enough to deliver excitement, and the Dodge Coronet arrived at exactly the right moment. It was engineered to bridge the gap between Dodge family cars and the rapidly growing world of Mopar performance. The Coronet carried a design rooted in technical precision. Angular bodywork, a wide front face, and sharp detailing created a serious but not overwhelming appearance. Dual headlamps framed a straight grille, while the squared rear end gave the car a stance that felt grounded and deliberate. Rather than using curves or ornate styling, the Coronet looked like a clean block of metal shaped to do its job with purpose. When new, the Coronet was priced from roughly $2,400 to just above $3,000 depending on equipment, a clear attempt by Dodge to keep the model within reach of many buyers. In the collector world, a rare Hemi-powered Coronet once reached more than $200,000 at a major Florida auction in the 2010s. That sale helped reinforce the Coronet as one of Mopar's quiet but powerful icons. Today, the surviving Coronets carry their own distinct personalities. Some have been restored with great care, while others retain the worn but honest look of decades gone by. Every Coronet feels like a remaining page from the era of American muscle, a time defined by simplicity and raw power. And for anyone who remembers the signature growl of Mopar power, a Coronet can still stir something deep in the memory. The Plymouth Barracuda entered the 1970s at the height of the American muscle car wars. As the market demanded machines that were stronger, louder, and more aggressive, the new generation Barracuda arrived to face the Camaro and the Mustang head-on, while carrying the unmistakable identity of Mopar. For many Americans, this was a time when a car represented personal freedom, and the Barracuda captured that spirit perfectly. The Barracuda of this era carried a low and wide stance, a long hood, strong rear quarters, and a body that looked ready to pounce at any moment. Sharp lines blended with a focused front profile, giving the car the presence of a street predator. Moving to the E-body platform, shared with the Dodge Challenger, gave the Barracuda a more athletic and balanced shape than ever before. Under the hood, the Barracuda offered an impressive range of engines. From the 340 to the mighty big block 440, each version delivered serious muscle. At the top of the lineup stood the Hemi-Cuda equipped with the legendary 426 Hemi. With proper tuning, The car could exceed 130 miles per hour, and its explosive acceleration made it a true terror on the streets of its time. When new, the Barracuda was priced between roughly $3,000 and $4,000 depending on configuration, placing it within reach of many speed enthusiasts. One of the most memorable chapters in the Barracuda story came from its appearance in the 1971 film Vanishing Point. The Hemi-Cuda used in the movie became a pop culture icon, inspiring an entire generation to see the Barracuda as a symbol of rebellion and raw American power. That cultural impact helped elevate the car far beyond a typical muscle machine. While rare models like the Hemi-Cuda are extremely hard to find today, many standard Barracudas still appear regularly in the classic car market. And if you have stayed with us all the way to the 5th chapter, leave the number 5 below, so we know you are still riding through this era of American muscle with us. In the world of American sports cars, the Chevrolet Corvette has always been a symbol of identity and pride, and the C4 generation marked a major transition into a more modern era. As aerodynamic styling took over the 1980s, the Chevrolet Corvette C4 embraced the trend with a low body, pop-up headlights, a long pointed nose, and sharp lines that gave it a futuristic presence. When it first launched, the Chevrolet Corvette C4 carried a price between roughly $20,000 and $30,000 depending on model year and options. Over more than 10 years of production, Chevrolet built more than 300,000 units, making it one of the most widely available and approachable Corvette generations. Performance for the standard versions was impressive for the time. Most C4s could complete the quarter mile in roughly 14 to 15 seconds. Depending on the configuration, top speed often surpassed 140 miles per hour. At the high end were the Callaway twin-turbo versions, factory-endorsed performance machines that became legendary for their power and engineering. What keeps the Chevrolet Corvette C4 appealing today is its balance. It is not impossibly rare, not painfully expensive, yet it delivers a true Corvette experience. It feels sporty, sharp, and eager, the kind of car that invites the driver to push a little farther every time they take the wheel. The Pontiac Firebird of the 1970s was born during a period when General Motors needed a true performance car to answer the growing hunger for speed across America. Sharing its platform with the Chevrolet Camaro gave the Firebird a natural advantage with sharp handling, strong performance, and a youthful, rebellious spirit. Even so, Pontiac refused to let it become a simple copy. The brand refined and reshaped the Firebird until it carried a character all its own. The Firebird line offered a wide range of V8 engines, from solid standard setups to far more aggressive versions. The brightest star in the lineup was the Trans Am, known for its strong engine, firm grip, and an unmistakable sense of confidence on the road. High-performance versions could complete the quarter mile in roughly 14 to 15 seconds, proving that the Firebird delivered far more than style. In the right conditions, many models could reach or even exceed 130 miles per hour. When it first arrived, the Pontiac Firebird carried a price tag between roughly $3,000 and $4,000 depending on configuration, making it one of the most successful and accessible cars Pontiac ever produced. For collectors, the highest recorded sale went to a special Trans Am that crossed the block in Scottsdale for more than $200,000 during the 2010s, a number that reflects the lasting respect this car commands. The Firebird's cultural power reached its peak when the Trans Am became the on-screen hero of Smokey and the Bandit. That role turned the car into an icon of rebellion and freedom, cementing the Firebird as far more than a vehicle. For many who grew up in that era, it symbolized a way of life, a reminder that the open road always held one more adventure. The Lincoln Continental of the 1970s arrived at a time when American luxury meant far more than a comfortable ride. Business leaders, influential figures, and celebrities wanted a car that announced their presence long before they stepped out. With a long tradition of serving the upper class, Lincoln created the Continental Mark IV as a direct answer to that demand. It felt less like a car and more like a rolling living room, quiet, poised, and unmistakably Lincoln. The Mark IV carried technical specifications built around Lincoln's philosophy of luxury first and power second. Under the hood sat a V8 engine with 460 cubic inches, delivering smooth and heavy torque designed not for violent acceleration but for effortless motion. Its substantial weight meant the car was not a top-speed challenger, yet, on the open highway it moved with a calm grace that separated the cabin from the outside world. The long wheelbase and soft suspension allowed the Continental to glide across the road with the serenity expected from true American luxury. Inside, the Mark IV surrounded its passengers with premium materials. Plush cloth or fine leather seats, a broad dashboard, a large steering wheel, and generous space for 5 adults created the feeling of a living room in motion. This level of refinement made the Continental the preferred choice of executives and public figures throughout the decade. Even though the Continental Mark IV was an expensive car in its day, it is surprisingly easy to find now. Many examples on the classic market still retain their imposing presence. Some are pristine, others show their age with pride. But the moment you sit inside, feel the quiet pulse of the big engine and hear the heavy door shut, you understand why the Continental once defined American luxury. It is a kind of luxury that does not rush and does not shout. It simply stands on its own with confidence and class. If there is one car that captures the full spirit of American luxury during its golden age, it is the Cadillac Eldorado of the 1970s. In the early years of that decade, before the fuel crisis reshaped the entire industry, the Eldorado stepped forward as a symbol of extravagance. It was big, expensive, and confident. A car that did not need anyone's permission to make a statement. Cadillac wanted to build a machine that stood above every other luxury car in America. And with the Eldorado, they succeeded. Beneath the massive body sat a V8 engine with 452 cubic inches, one of the largest engines ever installed in a mass-produced American car. It was not built for violent acceleration, but for a deep and velvety wave of torque that matched Cadillac's philosophy of smooth, effortless motion. Power was delivered through front-wheel drive, an unusual trait for a car of its size in the 1970s. Combined with a long wheelbase and soft suspension, the Eldorado glided over the pavement so gently that drivers often forgot the road was even there. The Eldorado arrived at the perfect time for the American upper class. Its interior felt like a living room on wheels, with soft leather seating, an imposing dashboard, and enough space for 5 adults to ride in comfort. When new, the Eldorado carried one of the highest price tags in the country, beginning around $8,000 and rising above $9,000 depending on the configuration, a considerable sum in the early 1970s. Throughout its production run from 1971 to 1978, Cadillac built more than 400,000 Eldorados. That volume ensures the car still appears regularly in the classic market. Not every example is perfect, but the moment you sit inside, pull the heavy door shut, and hear the gentle rumble of that giant engine, you understand why the Eldorado was once the rolling dream of America. In the late 1960s, American automakers were locked in a fierce race to build machines that were both aggressive and unforgettable. The Dodge Charger was born in that moment, serving as Mopar's strongest answer to rising competition from Ford and Chevrolet. Dodge did not simply want to sell a car. They wanted to create an icon, a full-size coupe with a violent beauty, ready for real-world racing and destined for stardom on the big screen. This era of the Charger carried a bold fastback silhouette, a roofline that flowed cleanly into the rear deck, a wide stance and sharp lines that looked as if they were carved from steel. Beneath that muscular shape lived the big block engines that made the Charger immortal. The most famous version was the RT, equipped with either the 440 Magnum or the legendary 426 Hemi. The 440 delivered thick torque from low revs, while the Hemi unleashed explosive acceleration and a sound that felt powerful enough to shake the pavement. In ideal conditions, the Charger could reach top speeds above 130 miles per hour and run the quarter mile in roughly 13 seconds, numbers that made it one of the most formidable cars of its era. Today, the Charger is far from inexpensive, yet it remains surprisingly reachable. Big block models still appear in the classic market, though finding a truly pristine example may take patience. But that search is part of the experience. Tracking down the right Charger feels like rediscovering the raw heartbeat of the American muscle age, A journey back to a time when power and attitude ruled the open road. These machines remind us why American classics still matter. They survived decades of change, carried our stories, and remain within reach for anyone who wants to feel real metal and real power again. If this journey brought back memories or sparked new ones, give the video a like and subscribe to American Muscle Soul. Your support keeps these legends alive. And together, we will continue exploring the roads where America's greatest cars still breathe.